Welcome to the Loyalty Builders podcast, where together with the top loyalty and product experts, we discuss how to maximize customer acquisition, engagement, and retention by using a loyalty engine. Building loyalty is complex, but with the right toolkit and market-proven knowledge, you will maximize the use of your products and services faster than learning from your own mistakes. Subscribe to our newsletter and twice a week get tried and tested tactics to build and improve customer loyalty. Hey everyone! This time we're getting closer to understanding loyalty in Europe. The goal of this episode is to share findings from the European Loyalty White Paper and present case studies to inspire you to innovate your loyalty initiatives. Our guest today is Charlie Hills, Chief Strategy Officer at Mando-Connect. Charlie co-founded and leads WPP's loyalty and partnerships agency, Mando-Connect. She and her team work closely with programs aiming to make a step change and view data-fueled partnerships and rewards as the key to unlocking a program's full potential. Mando-Connect, in partnership with YouGov, recently published a white paper titled Understanding Loyalty in Europe. It's packed with data, insights, case studies, and there's even a contribution from our own expert, Paweł Dziadkowiec, covering the Polish market. You'll find the link to the white paper in the episode description. So without further ado, here's Charlie. Hi Charlie, great to have you on a podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be back.
Absolutely. So you've recently released the Understanding Loyalty in Europe white paper, exploring new data on the appeal and impact of loyalty programs across 24 European markets. So could you give us a brief overview of the white paper and the main reason for creating it?
Yes, of course. So at Mando-Connect, we are WPP's loyalty and partnership specialist agency. We're based out of London, but we work across Europe. And one of the things we are really passionate about and famous for, I think now, is about kind of developing market-leading insight that helps loyalty program leads across Europe design better programs, operate better programs, implement better programs, and critically in our work as well, develop partnerships that make those programs better. So our starting point for that back in 2018 was an intellectual partnership with YouGov, where we started publishing the What the Brits Want from Loyalty series of white papers. So we've been publishing that regularly now since 2018. And that's a really deep dive study into membership, appeal, impact, types of programs, favorite programs, hot topics from sustainability to how do you get Gen Z to engage to how do promotions work within loyalty programs. And we launched our most recent one of those in March 2024. And then off the back of that, we wanted to look outside of our own market, actually. Britain is recognised, I think, as one of the more interesting and dynamic loyalty markets in the world, but we know we've got a lot to learn. So that's why we then went back to YouGov. And from 2023, we started publishing Understanding Loyalty in Europe, which is where we look at 24 markets, as you've said, across the European continent. We look at membership, appeal, and impact of loyalty programs in those markets. And then what we wanted to do as well was to bring together a community of experts from a diverse range of backgrounds. So people running programs, platform providers, academics, and thought leaders to help us really dig into those European stories and understand why it's the case in each of those markets. And critically, to provide some really cool case studies for inspiration for us all. So that's really the history of the paper. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It also corresponds well with the goal for our podcast, because we actually tend to share case studies as well and like expert advice with loyalty builders. This is perfect. So we have identified 5 findings to discuss during the podcast, and I think that we could just go through them.
Yeah.
So the first one was actually the fact that Europeans are fans of loyalty programs, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great thing to see. And it's important to note at this point that, although we're an agency and we commission this research, it is all independently validated and checked by YouGov. So your listeners can be really confident that these statistics are accurate, representative and robust throughout the research. So yes, we found again in 2024 that Europeans are big fans of loyalty programs. 55% of adults across our 24 European markets think that loyalty programs are a great way to reward customers, which was a really positive stat to see. So more than half are thinking, yes, loyalty programs are brilliant. At the top, we see the British, they're the biggest fans. So 74% of British adults think that loyalty programs are a great way to reward customers. And that's up from 70% in 2023. So really positive story, followed by the Polish at 67%, the Irish at 66%, Germans at 65% and the Slovakians at 65%. So if you're running a program in any of those markets, you've got an audience that really want you to succeed. They think loyalty programs are great.
That's good news. I wanted to ask you about any differences you've seen, because, I believe that the white paper actually, shows it, because we have different experts who actually tackle those different markets. Any sort of big changes between those European countries or anything that, is visible from your perspective?
I'd encourage your listeners to download the white paper. It's available from our website, www.mando.co.uk, and you can get the full detail and all the graphics and every data point in there. Because I think whenever I go through the white paper with anybody from their particular market or their particular program, they're interested in different things within it. But yes, we did. On fans of loyalty programs, at the European level, we didn't see a huge shift. So we had 55% thinking that loyalty programs are a great way to reward customers in 2024 and 56% in 2023. So not a huge shift there, still a very positive story. But in terms of markets in which we saw big changes, we actually saw declines in this metric in 17 out of the 24 markets that we looked at, which was a surprise because across Europe, we know that programs and brand owners are really investing in loyalty and coming at it from a British point of view where our market is exploding and everyone loves loyalty and it's getting better and better. It was quite surprising, but we did see some big declines in markets like Romania down 8.5%, Turkey down 7.8%, and Bulgaria down 7.5%. However, those were offset by big increases in markets like Norway that had increased 15%, Denmark 10%, and Great Britain at +6% as well. So the overall net picture, not a huge change, but some interesting variation by market. So I would recommend that your listeners go in and have a look and see what it looks like in their market.
Absolutely. There's going to be the link to the report directly in the description of this episode. So definitely check it out, guys. I also wanted to ask you about, because you've mentioned the British market as sort of innovative and a lot of people are very enthusiastic when it comes to loyalty programs. Could you share perhaps any strategies or any tips for other markets actually, to just maybe pick any sort of innovation and how to differentiate the program in 2024?
Yeah, I think, it's good timing for that question because obviously we did the European paper launched in April 2024 and we did the British paper launched in March 2024. I've actually got both of them here with me today. So again, Awesome. Check it out. You can get it off the website as well to look at it in more detail. I think what we've seen happen in the British market is some interesting trends. There's been a real focus on value from loyalty programs in this market. The cost of living crisis has really bitten and the loyalty industry has really responded to that very strongly. So we've seen a range of programs offer member pricing. So Tesco Club Card started, Nectar, Co-op, BP, Boots, a lot of our biggest programs in the British market are now offering exclusive member pricing. We've seen a significant increase in the number of promotions that loyalty programs are running as well as sort of short-term tactical 6 to 8 week promotions, particularly around Christmas last year, helping people with that key Christmas time, helping them give gifts to their family, helping them with Christmas dinner and helping them with Christmas breaks, all the things that are really important. So we've seen, a real focus on value, a real rise in promotions. And then I think the other thing that really stands out for me in the British market is the way that programs are differentiating through their brand positioning. So we're no longer seeing a one-size-fits-all points program from anyone, really. We've had a range of new programs in the British market. We've had My McDonald's launch. We've had a big program from Asda. We've had a big program from Robert Dias. We've had all these big brands kind of launch programs. And actually, they really are all baking their DNA into the program and putting their unique spin on whatever they're doing. And what we're seeing is a lot of rise of hybrid mechanics. So My McDonald's is a really good example. At its heart, it's a fairly simple points program, but actually they overlay it with some really kind of strong promotional mechanics to spike people's interest in and reward the kinds of behavior and engagement that they want. So those have probably been my top three things from the British market.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the second finding was the impact. So actually the impact of loyalty remains strong across Europe. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course. So traditionally in the European research, we've looked at three types of metric. We've looked at appeal, and we have 3 data points that we use for appeal. We looked at impact across functional and emotional metrics. And then we also looked at membership. Now, the membership data isn't coming out till Q4 this year, but the impact data was really interesting. So we found that 42% of our adults across our 24 European markets say that membership makes them more loyal. That's versus 43% in 2023. So very consistent impact there, which is great to see. 35% say they are more likely to recommend the brand. 31% say they are more emotionally connected to the brand when a member of its program. And 29% will spend more with the brand when they're a member of its loyalty program. So it's only a snapshot. It's only 4 metrics, 2 emotional metrics, 2 functional metrics. But again, a very positive impact story really across Europe. And in the paper itself, you can see how we break that down by each market. And I think that's a really interesting story when you start to look at the markets that are really strong on all 4 metrics. So if we look at Ireland, for example, 44% more loyal, 38% more recommendation, 39% more spend, 34% more emotional connection. Fascinating. Versus a market, say, like the Netherlands, where actually very low impact on all metrics. So, 28% on loyal, 21% on recommendation, 21% on emotional connection, and only 18% on spend. And we've built this brilliant visual where you can actually see all the markets. And I think one of the most interesting things I find when I'm talking to program owners is the use of that to understand where the opportunity is in their markets. Right. And can they influence spend in their market? Should they be focusing on emotional connection? And then also very interestingly, which markets are doing it really well? The French market, the Polish market, and the Italian market, all very strong markets for impact, and definitely worth having a look at what programs are doing in those markets so that you can learn from that if you're in perhaps a lower impact market. Portugal's a really interesting one, really high on loyalty, recommendation, and emotional impact, but pretty low on spend comparatively. So what's happening in Portugal that means that those 3 impacts are very positive, but spend not so much? Yeah, it's fascinating.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, definitely, impact is something we also focus on heavily. So we try to share some cool case studies whenever possible. So I wanted to ask you about any case study that you could share, perhaps. I know that it's a part of the white paper, so maybe you could, share a few data points that show the impact of a loyalty program?
So what we build into the white paper in the European format is 3 deep dive case studies. So what are 3 really interesting European programs that we think people could really learn from? And what we're trying to pull out is not necessarily the biggest ones that everybody knows, but the programs that are doing really interesting and different things. So in this year's paper, we featured Canon Club, which is a fascinating program from Canon. Obviously, all you keen photographers who are listening, go check it out. The program launched in 2022. It's now got 83,000 members, and all you do is you register your product to join. And what I particularly love about this program is its use of community and actually how they are getting their members to contribute shots, to contribute advice to other members, and how they're building a really true kind of engaged community base within that program. And actually that's at the heart of the loyalty program. The second case study that we included was Oracle Red Bull Racing's The Paddock, a traditional sort of tiered program aligned to the racing season where actually fans are rewarded for engagement. And this is all about taking the joy of Formula One to the fans that can't get to the races, and some really interesting things, that they're doing, some fantastic activations they're doing. One of my favorite is they did the Make Your Mark campaign where they gave fans the opportunity to design the RB19 livery for each of the 3 2023 USA Grand Prix races. It fan submitted designs. They've got all the coverage of the, them telling the winners. And then they do really amazing stuff like, fly the cars in on helicopters, take over Vegas nightclubs. The activations that they're doing in that program are really spectacular and, kind of really true to the brand. And it's a great example for fan engagement. And then Matas was the last kind of case study that we do. We actually launched the white paper at the Loyalty Summit CXM in Copenhagen. So we wanted to have a really strong Danish program. And, who's stronger than Matas? So established in 2010, it rewards regular customers. It's got some really lovely innovations within it. They've just, for example, offered a plus membership where for a fee, members can gain access to even more exclusive benefits, stuff like free shopping events, triple points, and new offers every 14 days. That was aimed for the top 25% of their customers. And it's really interesting to see those kind of innovations kind of coming through in big programs. So those were the 3 big case studies that are in the white paper. And then we also asked each of our experts to pick out 3 smaller case studies within each of their markets. They get a few less pages in the white paper, but we've got everybody from Lidl Plus to Vodafone Very Me to Cafe Nero to Libri to Magenta Moments to Supershop, Cisalfa Pro. I can never say Piacere Lavazza, Sorgenia, Greeners from Sorgenia, the MyAH app, Bol.com, Hunkmöller, who've got a really cool kind of lingerie proposition, Kaufland, IKEA, Vitae, SAS, Cope, H&M, and I think that was it from all our experts. We had kind of 10 different market experts who all contributed, as we've said, from different kind of angles. So, everybody from Radek of Voxwise, Rasmus of Agilic, Michael from the University of Bordeaux, Nicole from Get Focused, Juja from Antavo, Christina from the University of Parma, Rick from Loyalty Chiefs, Paweł from Open Loyalty, Emil from Milton, and then, as I said, our program contributors. So Mike Harris and Elliot Warman from Red Bull, Beth Simpson from Canon Club, and Peter Anders Franch from Matas. So a really amazing community of experts. So check it out because they've put in some brilliant case studies.
Absolutely. It's a goldmine of case studies. So definitely another reason to download the full report. Thank you so much. And the third finding that we've identified was about the cost of living crisis. You've said about it like briefly, but perhaps you could explain a bit more of the role of a loyalty program during the time of crisis.
Of course. So I think it's a common theme in loyalty thought leadership at the moment. How can loyalty programs adapt their approach to help customers during a cost of living crisis? What extra value can they add? And we've seen that across all our expert commentary across all our markets. So what loyalty programs have done is, they've really invested to give value back to their customers, keep loyal customers coming back, keep loyal customers spending. They're being used to attract new customers into the programs and into the brands. We've already covered member pricing, that being such a key way that a loyalty program can give value back to its members. And then what we've seen in reflection of that is then a huge increased focus from the brands who are offering loyalty programs on their loyalty programs. So a significant rise in loyalty programs featuring in above the line campaigns and on television, getting real kind of prominence and actually becoming a key way that brands are engaging with their audience. So a really nice kind of side to the role that loyalty can play in a cost of living crisis. We didn't go into it so much in the report as well, but I always think it's important to reflect the other side of that coin as well, in that loyalty programs themselves are in a cost of living crisis. Every loyalty program lead I talk to is having budgets squeezed, teams cut, resources cut. Nobody can get in the work stack with the IT team. And at the same time, all the rewards and benefits that you're offering are getting more expensive as cost of goods and cost of services increase. So there's a real tension, I think, in the loyalty industry at the moment between wanting to give people back more, but also having less limited resources yourself to do it. And so things like brand partnerships, we're seeing a huge rise in as a consequence of that, because program owners are understanding that actually if I work with another brand and we pool our resources, we can, of course, give our members these brilliant rewards and benefits, and we're not having to pay kind of full price for them all. Or, giving away a partner reward is less expensive than giving away something from my own ecosystem. So we've seen that as a way that programs are helping with their own cost of living crisis. And then we talked about it again before, but promotions is another way that they're doing that. So rather than having a long, always on offer that's always available 52 weeks for everybody, we're actually seeing the use of shorter term tactical promotions that either target key segments or are only available to 6 to 8 weeks, so that you can make, every pound or euro you spend go that much further.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. there's also some room for innovation, and usually the crisis is the catalyst for a change.
Yes.
So the next or the fourth area that we identified is the functional loyalty. And that the fact that it remains the norm, but customers want more. If you could explain the term functional loyalty, what it really means.
Yeah, so I think there's been an evolution of people's thinking about loyalty. And actually, as part of WPP, we look at what drives true loyalty. So we look at emotional bonds, functional bonds, structural bonds, and social bonds, about how people are actually baked into programs and how brands can build sort of long and mutually beneficial relationships with their customers. What we see across most European markets at the moment is a strong focus on functional loyalty. And we would think about functional loyalty as the sort of the things you get, the value-based, rational stuff that makes you want to be a member of a loyalty program, the points you get, the member pricing you get. What does this program give me on a very rational and functional level? And we've seen a real focus on that across Europe from programs. And what we saw from all of our experts is actually the programs that are truly differentiating and making an impact have strong functional benefits. They really, really do. But actually, the best of the best have got these better emotional connections with their audience. They're connecting in more genuine brand ways. They're there in the right moments. They're offering emotionally charged benefits and rewards, experiences, status benefits, perks, the use of surprise and delight, the use of kind of gamification and promotions to make people feel good about the program, as well as what am I getting from the program. So I think that was one of the key things that came out across our entire expert community, actually, the need to have a really rock solid functional program, but with a strong emotional overlay.
Absolutely. Thank you. So what would be your personal favorite here? A kind of like a program that has the solid foundations, functional foundations, but also surprises and delights customers and actually takes care of the emotional part of loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, I've got so many favorite programs, as a kind of ultimate loyalty nerd. It's an impossible question to answer. The last time I was asked it on a podcast, I talked about Beauty Pie as a really interesting hybrid mechanic, a subscription and a membership, but with a really strong overlay of, access. They use scarcity really well. They do really kind of cool promotions and all in a very uniquely brand way. It's quite a complicated program to get your head around, but then once you do, and once you're on the inside, you can really unlock the benefits of it. I love that. I love Sephora Beauty Insider. I think that's a fantastic program. The introduction of the challenges recently, I think, is really interesting. They're really tapping into that mentality of brand appropriate reward for brand appropriate behavior that we've seen from so many of the amazing outdoor sports companies. I'm thinking about the kind of, the board riders and Ripka, where they're rewarding you for surfing, or where you're being rewarded for climbing a mountain, by the North Face. There's all sorts of really interesting things. The Decat Club in France, I think, is really nice. A really, a new proposition launch. Obviously, they had the famous one that they shut several years ago. I think that's a really interesting hybrid program, rewarding for transaction, but also action, but also things like sustainability, which I'm really passionate about. If you buy from their secondhand range, you get extra rewards and things like that. So I think there's some really interesting things happening in programs at the moment. And then obviously the three that we put in the white paper that I talked about, I think are really cool as well. So Canon, Red Bull and Matas.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, like framing it in a way like what's your favorite one is a challenging question. It's true. But thank you for sharing those this batch. So definitely, I'm going to check them out myself. You've mentioned gamification as a sort of like a way to differentiate your brand. Gamification is huge, and we've seen it that more and more of our customers are particularly interested in gamification. So how about gamification from the point of view of the white paper?
Yeah, I think gamification is so interesting and people always interpret it very differently. So I think some people think that gamification in a loyalty program is about doing a one-off promotion that's quite fun, having a one-off competition. And that is a type of gamification within loyalty programs and has a huge impact. And there are some fantastic examples of loyalty programs doing, really cool gamification as a one-off hit. Very Me Rewards from Vodafone in Great Britain is a fantastic program. I think it's won nearly every award going. And they did a very cool Elf and Seek promotion at Christmas, where they built augmented reality elves, and Vodafone customers had to go and hunt for these elves. And then when you found your very cute augmented reality elf, you were then given, prizes. Thousands of different prizes were available. And it was a really fun way of bringing some joy into the program at a key moment, bringing some experience and emotional connection into that program. But then also, the functional reward of the prizes for their members, and actually obviously the natural and intuitive fit to the handset, and some very cute elves. So that's a really lovely, simple way of bringing gamification into a program. I do think there are also things that we can all do as loyalty program leads, where we're thinking about longer term gamification as well, where actually the experience of the program is a game, where actually, we're not making members fill out long and boring profiles. We're asking them interesting questions about what they love. There's some great stuff happening in UX and loyalty at the moment. Even the Cafe Nero, shake, the famous Christmas cracker promotion where you shake your phone, and you won't get a prize. There's all sorts of lovely little ways, I think, that we can use UX and a gamified experience to make our loyalty programs as well. So I think it's important that leads think about both of those things: short-term tactical gamification techniques, but also long-term gamification of the experience, so that it becomes as much fun to take part in the loyalty program as it does to win something or get your reward.
Absolutely. Thank you. We also have quite a few interesting case studies with gamification, so you could check it out on a website, or actually maybe it's a good idea to put it also in the description of this episode, so that yes, the definitely. Gamification is covered and you have all the resources at hand. I was thinking, because, we were discussing, we've been discussing Europe, 24 markets. Obviously, there must be like big and small programs, right? Like for big enterprises and smaller companies. How about this sort of have you seen any strategies that big enterprises tend to use, and the smaller companies that also try to be innovative and, try to engage their audience in a way they could? So do you have any perspective on this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when you work for a big agency and a big network like me, we're really lucky in that we're privileged to work on massive programs, Marriott Bonvoy, I think it's nearly 200 million members now, down to programs, that have got 10,000 members, or that, are doing small and interesting things. You've got the programs that invest millions and millions and millions of pounds in their technology, and then the ones that have no technology, but somehow, kind of create a loyalty program anyway. So I don't think there's a one size fits all approach to loyalty. I don't think you have to be a big brand to have a program. I think a program can work for everyone. It's a mentality. It's a way of thinking. Actually, who are my audience? How do I engage them? How do I retain them in a way that's unique and interesting to my brand, that critically drives value for me, but also for my member? You need that mutually beneficial relationship to make a program work. I think some of my favorite big brands, I mentioned Marriott Bonvoy, check it out. Like Marriott Moments is awesome. Some absolutely fantastic money can't buy experiences that, you can get as a member of that program. A fairly straightforward approach to tiering for a travel loyalty program, versus some of their others. It's a fantastic big program. In the British market, you'd be remiss not to talk about Tesco Clubcard, Nectar, Boots, Co-op, some of the big ones. But then you've also got things like Amazon Prime across Europe, IKEA Family, some really exciting big programs. And then at the smaller end, I always think that's fascinating too. Some of our experts pulled out, particularly small, programs that were doing interesting things. So in the Hungarian market, Libri was pulled out as a publisher and book chain, and they do personalized newsletters where you earn points and you can get 10% off prizes. We've already talked about the Decat Club in France, but there was a really lovely one, all sorts of interesting things. There was a football club that was pulled out in the Danish market that was doing really cool stuff. Addy Club, huge, our German expert, pulled out as a really interesting program to look at. And just some really cool stuff, I think, in big and small to check out.
Another reason to download the full white paper. So,
yes.
Thank you so much for, first of all, creating the white paper and compiling all the data and sharing the insights. And also, thank you so much for popping on our podcast and sharing the insights with our audience. Yeah, I think that, at this point, it's a good moment to wrap up. And I would just advise anyone to download the full report and then definitely dig into the case studies and insights that are there.
Wonderful. And if you have any questions, obviously come to us through the website, through the download, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Charlie Hills at Mando-Connect. Really happy to help. Over the next year, my plan is to get, the other markets all in the paper as well. So if you're an expert in a market that we didn't do a deep dive into, but that's featured in the research, please let me know. We're really keen to build our story of what loyalty is happening, what's happening in loyalty across Europe so that we can really understand it and learn from it. So thank you ever so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. As you can hear, the white paper is packed with value, so go ahead and download the full version. Now, let's wrap up with a few action steps. First, you'll find helpful links in the podcast description. Second, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for more valuable content related to the episode. And stay tuned for the next one. Have a great day, everyone. The Loyalty Builders podcast is brought to you by the team at Open Loyalty, an API-first loyalty engine that allows you to implement loyalty and gamification features into your tech stack faster than developing them from scratch.